She said she loved me, but when I got sick she left. Years later she came back in karma. My girlfriend said she loved me, but when my illness appeared, she left. Years later, she wanted to return, but karma destroyed her. My name is Lucas. I'm 26 years old, and until recently I thought I had my life completely under control. I had a stable job, a girlfriend I deeply loved, and plans to marry her in less than a year. But in a matter of months, everything collapsed. Sometimes I still struggle to accept how quickly life can change. I still wake up with the feeling that it was all a nightmare. But I'll open my eyes and see Liliana by my side, smiling, asking me if I want coffee or if I prefer to sleep a little longer, but that moment never comes. Liliana and I met at university. We both studied industrial engineering. I was always more reserved, while she had a brilliant personality, the kind that fills empty spaces without even trying. She caught my attention from day one. It wasn't just her appearance, but the way she spoke, how she explained things when someone didn't understand, or the genuine interest she showed when someone told her something. We became friends in the second semester during a group project. We spent hours solving exercises, and little by little the conversation started to go beyond coursework. She told me about her family, her dream of having her own company, and how much she loved to travel. At first, I thought she would never see me as anything more than a classmate, but over time something changed. One day, after a presentation, she invited me for coffee to celebrate. That afternoon, we talked for more than 5 hours. It was the first time I felt we really connected. A couple of weeks later, we started dating officially. They were very beautiful years. We graduated together, got our first jobs, and although things weren't always easy, we always supported each other. When I started working at a metal company, I spent many hours standing, moving materials, and supervising processes. It wasn't exactly an office job, but I liked it. It made me feel useful, productive. Besides, in my free time, I dedicated myself to photography, something I'd been passionate about since I was a teenager. Liliana was always my model, or at least she was for a long time. Sometimes we would go to the park on Sundays, and I would take photos of her among the trees or at sunset. She told me she loved how I made her feel when I took her photos, but I looked at her like no one else did. After 6 years together, we decided to take the next step. We started looking for an apartment to live together and began talking about getting married. We even looked at rings. I remember that was one of the happiest times of my life. I felt like everything was finally falling into place, but it was right then when everything started to change. One day, while shaving, I noticed I had a small lump on the right side of my neck. I thought it was something muscular or a swollen lymph node from some mild infection. I didn't pay much attention to it, but days passed and it didn't disappear. It even seemed to grow a little. I told Liliana, and she said I should go to the doctor, but we didn't give it too much importance. We were both so focused on work and preparing for our new life together that health took a back seat. A couple of weeks later, I started feeling extreme fatigue. It was hard to get up in the mornings, and although I slept a lot, I never felt rested. I also started sweating at night, something that had never happened to me before. I went to a general practitioner, and he told me it was probably inflamed lymph nodes from some infection. He prescribed antibiotics and anti-inflammatory medication. He assured me that in a few days everything would return to normal, but it wasn't like that. Weeks passed, and months, and the lymph nodes not only didn't disappear, but started to grow more. One of them was already visible to the naked eye. That's when I decided to get more comprehensive tests done. I remember perfectly the day of the biopsy. Liliana accompanied me, and although she tried to appear calm, I could see the nervousness in her eyes. She squeezed my hand and said, "Everything will be fine, Lucas. You'll see it's nothing serious." I wanted to believe her. When the results came, the doctor asked me to sit down. His expression changed completely from the relaxed one he'd had in previous consultations. He explained that what I had was Hodgkin's lymphoma. I didn't immediately understand what that meant. I looked at him waiting for him to continue, and when he did, he used a word that went through my body like an electric current. Cancer. I remember my mind went blank. I didn't hear everything he said after that. I just saw how he moved his lips and pointed at the images from my tests, while in my head only one question formed. Why me? Liliana remained silent. When we left the office, she walked a few steps behind me. In the parking lot, she came closer, hugged me, and started crying. I didn't know what to say to her. I just told her everything would be fine, even though I didn't believe it myself. The first days after the diagnosis were confusing. I had trouble sleeping. I would wake up at midnight and walk around the apartment aimlessly, trying to convince myself that it wasn't real. Sometimes I would lie down thinking that the next day everything would return to normal, that the doctor had made a mistake, that it had all been a laboratory error. But no. Every time I woke up, reality was there, relentless. Fortunately, a few years earlier, I had taken out major medical expense insurance on my father's recommendation. At that time, I did it without thinking much, more as a preventive measure. I never imagined I would end up depending on it. Thanks to that insurance, I was able to start treatment immediately. The chemotherapy sessions were tough, but at first Liliana was with me every step of the way. She went to the sessions, helped me eat, encouraged me when she saw me weak. She told me we were going to get through it together, that she would be by my side no matter what happened. However, as the months passed, her attitude changed. She started becoming more distant, colder. Sometimes she complained that we didn't do anything like before, that my mood had changed, but that my illness was consuming her too. I tried to understand her. I knew this was difficult not only for me, but also for her. Watching the person you love deteriorate day by day isn't easy to bear, but there was something different in her gaze, a kind of emotional exhaustion that went beyond concern. She started going out more with her friends. She said she needed to distract herself, clear her mind. I understood. I didn't want her life to revolve only around my illness. But over time, those outings became more frequent and loving messages fewer. Sometimes she spent entire nights without responding to me, and when she did, she sounded annoyed or distant. There was a day I'll never forget. It was my third chemotherapy session. I was exhausted, nauseous, and all I wanted was to get home, shower, and sleep. She didn't go that time. She told me she had a lot of work and couldn't be absent. I accepted without complaining. When I got to the apartment, I was alone. I sat on the bed, picked up my camera, and started reviewing old photos. There were hundreds of us smiling, traveling, hugging each other. I stared at one in particular from a beach trip we made the year before. She had her hair down, laughing in front of the ocean. At that moment, I realized how much I missed her, even though we were together. The following weeks were worse. Liliana seemed increasingly absent. She spoke to me curtly, as if every conversation was an obligation. When I tried to tell her that her attitude hurt me, she responded coldly, "You don't understand how difficult this is for me too." I remained silent. I didn't want to argue. I didn't have the strength for that. Until one night, after a silent dinner, she put her utensils on the table, took a deep breath, and said something that broke my soul. "I'm sorry, Lucas. I'm too young to be with someone who's sick. I don't want to watch you pass away. And if you survive, I don't want to carry that burden." I didn't know how to respond. I just stared at her, trying to process what she had just said. She avoided my gaze. "I can't anymore," she added. "This is destroying me. I need to move on with my life." That night, she packed her suitcase and left. I didn't even know where to. I didn't cry at that moment, but when she closed the door, I felt something inside me break definitively. If you've ever felt abandoned by someone you thought would always be there, leave a comment sharing your story. And if this is resonating with you, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like to support the channel. The next day, I called my mother and told her what had happened. She asked me to come back home, not to go through this alone. I left the apartment and went back to living with my parents. 2 weeks have passed since then. I spend my days watching movies to distract myself, taking photos of the garden or the sky, trying to find meaning in all of this. But the truth is I can't find it. I lost my job because physically I can no longer make the effort it required, and I lost the woman I thought would be with me for life. Sometimes I look in the mirror and don't recognize the person I see. I feel like this illness took everything from me: my health, my stability, and the love of my life. Hello, everyone. I wanted to thank you for the messages and good wishes you left on my previous post. I read each one of your comments, and although at first it was hard to accept the situation, little by little I started to understand that Liliana wasn't the love of my life. For a long time I clung to that idea, but now I see that if someone can leave right when you need them most, then it wasn't true love. I don't hold a grudge. I'm just grateful to have discovered her true nature before we got married. As for me, I'm continuing with treatment. I won't lie, there are tough days, but something has changed. Recently, my brother Sam came back. He's 20 years old and was away for 6 months on a school exchange. Since he returned, the house feels more alive. He has a very different energy, always optimistic. Every morning he comes into my room and says something like, "Come on, brother, you're not going to pass away. You're young. Better think. What will you do when all this is over?" At first I just smiled, but now those words really motivate me. Sam also encourages me to keep taking photographs. He says I have talent and shouldn't give it up for anything. I take photos of the sunrise from the garden, of the birds that perch on the wires in front of my window. I don't know if that will change anything, but at least it makes me feel alive. And for now, that's enough. Hello, everyone. 2 months have passed since my last post, and I wanted to share that fortunately, I'm responding well to treatment. The doctors say the results are positive and that if everything continues like this, I'll be able to finish the chemotherapy cycle earlier than expected. Physically, I still have difficult days, but I don't feel as weak as before. Little by little, I've been recovering energy and hope. Recently, I came across something I didn't expect. I was checking Facebook, and without looking for it, a post from Liliana appeared. Apparently, she's traveling with her new boyfriend. They're in Paris. I won't lie, at first I felt a knot in my chest. Not because I want to get back with her, but because it was strange to see how her life continued so quickly while I'm still here rebuilding myself. But there's no resentment anymore. I suppose everyone faces life as they can. On the other hand, my brother Sam brought me good news. He told me that the father of one of his friends has a clothing store and needs someone to take advertising photos for his page. Sam told him about me and said they want to pay for the work. I accepted, not so much for the money, but because it makes me feel useful again. It's been a long time since I worked on something related to photography, and the idea of doing it again, even if it's something small, gave me back a spark of motivation I thought was lost. lost. For the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm moving forward. Today I want to share an update I never imagined I could write. I feel better than ever. After months of treatment, the doctors confirmed that the cancer is in remission. My last chemotherapy session will be next month, and if everything goes as it has so far, I'll be able to close this chapter of my life definitively. I have no words to describe what I feel. I went through moments when I saw no way out, when everything seemed dark and meaningless, but now I can say with certainty that life can always surprise you, even when you think there's nothing left. Additionally, something incredible has happened with photography. That opportunity my brother Sam got me ended up being the beginning of something much bigger. The photos I took for the clothing store were so well received that other people started contacting me. First it was acquaintances and friends of friends, and suddenly I had several clients. Today I have a small studio at home and work on advertising sessions, portraits, and even events. I earn even a little more than when I worked as an engineer, but most importantly, I enjoy what I do every day. I never thought such a harsh illness could lead me to discover a new passion and a different way of living. If I learned anything from all this, it's that life doesn't stop for anyone, and that even from pain something beautiful can emerge. I'm very grateful to life, to those who supported me with their messages, and especially to my brother Sam. He was my strength when I no longer had it. He always believed I would get through this, even when I couldn't. Today I can say he was right. Hello everyone. A year and a half has passed since my last update, and I can say with all my heart that I never imagined writing these words. I'm cured. The cancer is gone. The doctors give me periodic checkups every 3 months, and so far everything is fine. Every time I leave a checkup with good results, I feel gratitude I can't describe with words. Breathing, walking, working, eating without pain. Everything that I used to take for granted is now a gift. These last months have been the best of my life. My photography business took off in a way I never imagined. What began as a casual opportunity became something that completely changed my life. The work with the clothing store was the beginning. After that, more clients started coming. People shared my photos, recommended my work, and little by little I started getting orders from other cities. Today I travel constantly doing advertising photography for brands, small businesses, and even local artists. But the best part is that I no longer work alone. Sam, my brother, became my partner. He learned video and editing while I was recovering, and together we formed a small studio. It's curious how life arranges the pieces when you least expect it. Sam and I spend hours working. There are days we don't sleep well. We travel from one place to another, but we enjoy it to the fullest. People hire us for the way we combine photography and video. They say our work has something special. I suppose that something is the heart we put into everything. A few months ago, I was able to fulfill one of my biggest dreams, buying a house. I'm still paying for it, of course, but I was able to put down 50% as a down payment, so the loan isn't that big. Every time I open the door and see my own space, I remember the days when I thought I would never have a normal life again. Now I have a place that's completely mine, where I work, rest, and where I finally feel peace. This year life surprised me for the better, but it also reminded me that although the past stays behind, sometimes it comes back in unexpected ways. Recently something happened that completely took me by surprise. It all started when a group of university students became interested in my story. Apparently, my brother Sam, always so sociable and without a filter, told them how I fought cancer and how I turned my passion for photography into a business. One of them knew someone at the local newspaper, and shortly after they published an article about me. The headline said, "A young man who beat cancer and created a photography empire at the same time." I never imagined seeing my face on the front page of a newspaper, much less with that title. It was a strange but nice moment, not because of the attention, but because I felt all the effort had been worth it. My mother was proud. Sam bragged about it everywhere, and I received many supportive messages. However, among all those messages, there was one I didn't expect. Liliana wrote to me for the first time in almost 3 years. It just said, "Hi, Lucas. I saw the article. Congratulations. Really, I'm glad you're well. You deserve it." I stared at the screen for several minutes. I didn't feel hatred or resentment, just a kind of calm emptiness, as if there was nothing left between us. I didn't respond. I thought that would be the end of it. But a few days later, while I was working, my mother called me. Her voice sounded nervous. She said, "Liliana is here. I already told her to leave, but she won't go." "What? What do you mean she's there?" I asked, surprised. "She says she needs to see you. She came with a baby." My heart skipped a beat. I didn't know what to think. I grabbed my keys and drove to my parents' house. When I arrived, she was in the living room with a sleeping baby in her arms. Her appearance was different. She looked thinner, tired, with deep dark circles under her eyes. As soon as she saw me, she slowly stood up. "Hello, Lucas," she said with a trembling voice. "Hello, Liliana," I responded, keeping my distance. We stood in silence for a few seconds. She started crying. "I know I have no right to ask you for anything, but I needed to see you," she said between sobs. "I want to ask for your forgiveness." She left the baby on the sofa, knelt in front of me, and continued, "I was a coward. I left you at the worst moment of your life, and I've regretted it every day since. The man I left with abandoned me when he found out I was expecting. I have no one. I don't know what to do. I just wanted to ask for your forgiveness and help." I looked at her in silence. I didn't feel anger, just sadness. I crouched in front of her, took her face in my hand, hands and said, "I forgive you, Liliana." She started crying harder and hugged me desperately. "I swear I won't disappoint you this time. Thank you for giving me a second chance." My mother, who was watching from the kitchen, came closer and said with concern, "Son." I looked at her and shook my head. Then with a firm voice I responded to Liliana, "I forgive you, Liliana. You were immature, impulsive, and made a terrible decision. But that doesn't mean we're getting back together." She separated from me, confused. "What? No, Lucas, please. I swear I'll do anything." "No, Liliana," I said calmly. "You decided to leave when I needed you most. You abandoned me when I thought I couldn't survive, and yet I did it without you. I don't hold a grudge against you, but there are wounds that can't be forgotten. If my cancer returned tomorrow, I know you would leave again." She shook her head, crying. "No, I swear I wouldn't. I changed. I swear." "No, Liliana." I sighed. "You sealed your own fate. You preferred a life of travel with a man who didn't value you, and when reality caught up with you, you looked to come back. We all make decisions. Now you have to live with yours." She broke down crying. The baby started crying too, as if sensing the tension of the moment. My mother approached and picked him up tenderly, trying to calm him. Liliana, in the midst of her desperation, started trembling and suddenly fainted. My mother and I helped her lie down on the sofa. We waited a few minutes until she came to. When she opened her eyes, she looked exhausted, embarrassed. I asked my mother to prepare some water for her while I requested a ride to take her home. When the vehicle arrived, I helped her get up and take the baby. Before she left, she looked at me with tears in her eyes and said, "I really am sorry, Lucas. You don't know how much." I nodded. "I hope you find the peace you're looking for, Liliana. Take good care of your child." I closed the door and stood for a few seconds watching the car drive away down the street. And I felt my mother's hand on my shoulder. "That woman wasn't worth it, son," she told me with a soft voice. "You did the right thing." I hugged her. I didn't say anything. I just felt relief, not because I had rejected Liliana, but because I finally understood I had closed that chapter. That night, while reviewing some photographs on my computer, I thought about everything that had happened, about how an illness took almost everything from me, but also gave me a new life. If Liliana hadn't left, maybe I never would have discovered what I'm really capable of doing. I never would have discovered the strength I had inside me. Today I have health, I have a purpose, a home, and above all, peace. Sometimes life doesn't give you what you want, but it gives you what you need to become who you're meant to be. I don't know what awaits me ahead, but I know that whatever happens, I'm ready. And if I've learned anything from all this, it's that forgiveness doesn't always mean going back. Sometimes forgiving is the quietest and most powerful way to move forward.